Welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches being the change they seek in the world. If you'd like to be featured on our podcast to share what you're contributing to making the world a better place for us all, please go to www.jointheuworldorder.com. Be sure to like and follow our podcast for the latest episodes. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today is Lori Balue. Lori is a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and low-carb weight loss lifestyle expert. She uses an untold and overlooked process to help women over 50 lose weight for good using low-carb nutrition, functional diagnostic labs, targeted supplementation, personalized nutrition, and one-on-one customized holistic lifestyle management. She is also the author of the Holistic Low-Carb Methods Recipes for Aging Beautifully for Longevity. Welcome to the show, Lori. I am so excited to chat with you about all things nutrition, holistic nutrition.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Thank you for that introduction. I mean, it really makes me feel special. I've been working really hard and getting that recipe book out, and I didn't even know I would do that. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, people need to know that there is a bridge to actually eating healthier and having nutrition in your body at the same time you get to enjoy treats. And so I put that recipe book together with some of my favorite recipes that I've been using for the last few years, that made it easier for me to lose 100 pounds. And so that information is available to people. And the more you hang out with me, the more I actually inspire and motivate you to do the same thing, because it's not as complicated as it could be. I can make it easy.
I love all of this, and we were talking about your pumpkin pie recipe, and we are going to circle back to that. But I want people to hear your story because you have a really powerful story. So can you share that with everybody?
Yeah, and it started back when I was a child, because I'm so sorry to plug in my computer. I had major depression as a child, to the point where I couldn't barely talk. I know my mom was driving me in a car to see a psychologist, and I wouldn't talk to them, and I wouldn't talk in the car back. And I don't, my mom never really talked about this, but she was studying Adele Davis. She was trying to figure out everything. The processed food had hit our house, and it was causing malfunction in my brothers, ADHD, and all these other problems, and it caused depression in me. And she put me on the Atkins diet. And so that saved my life back then. And I'm a reader. She taught me to be a reader. And even though I ended up not doing the Atkins diet as a lifestyle at that point, because we didn't realize could be a lifestyle. We looked at it as a diet intervention, but it did correct my depression, and I lost 50 pounds. And so I reset my metabolism and that's what exactly it needed to do. And so that saved my life at that time. And I actually stayed 150 pounds approximately during high school. Never really lost any more weight, but didn't really gain too much either. But soon after high school, it was the skinny narrative, starving yourself, going to Nutrisystem or Weight Watchers and doing all the diets and trying to figure out how to maintain slenderness while not eating, which is impossible, because hunger always wins, and you can't diet and actually starve your body over long term. And so any weight you lose is always going to just come right on back. And so that's what happened. I got hit with that boomerang, and I ended up being 225 pounds in my mid-30s, and the depression always came back. But this time I had a lowered immune response, wasn't absorbing my nutrients or getting enough nutrition in my body. And I was, unbeknown to me, I had food sensitivities that were developing, leaky gut. I had PCOS. I had asthma, allergies, sinusitis, bronchitis. I was hacking up phlegm all the time. And so, of course, I go to Kaiser, they give me a breathing machine. I ended up just living at the allergist, well, once a year for my seasonal allergies, once it got down to once a year after immune therapy. And that's where it stayed for like 20 years. And I was just on that, merry-go-round of weight gain, weight loss, and never could really get a handle on it until I studied functional nutrition, started experimenting more with a paleo diet and functional nutrition. And even on a paleo diet, it's a great diet. It's a great place to be if you're not pre-diabetic. If you're pre-diabetic, you have to take all the sugars out until you get your written blood sugar under control and you actually reset your metabolism. And so I didn't know that at the time, and I kept struggling trying to figure out how to lose the weight. What was my weight loss solution? At the time, I just like, let's just get rid of this asthma, see what happens. But that asthma didn't go away until I took the sugar and the wheat out of my diet because it was inflammation that I didn't know, and the allergist doesn't tell you about because he just told me I'd always be on an inhaler. Well, he was wrong. Soon as I segued into a keto diet back in 2016, I dropped 20 pounds, my brain turned back on, and I just started feeling amazing, got excited about life again. I must have not had a whole lot of joy or happiness because I just like, when my brain came back, it was like an open window and so much more clarity, brain energy, and excitement to really dive into this and figure out what was going on and how it was working. I never stepped backwards. I never cheated on sugar or wheat again. But I'd been struggling my whole life, and I didn't want to. Once I got that brain clarity and that brain energy back, I certified as 2 functional health coach programs and became a practitioner. And now I was just like, I gotta spread this message. I need people to know that this is out there. And I was still working on losing the weight. I still needed to get healthy at the time because I still needed to fix my gut. I still needed to manage digestion. And I was still using a food to keep from to be satisfied to for balancing my neurotransmitters. We need to be able to absorb our food, absorb our protein to get to the point where we actually have good digestion. And then we actually need to correct our gut. So I had been battling food sensitivities and I didn't know I was red sensitive to dairy. So I took the dairy out and finally started healing more in my body. And once that happened, I was able to get better health and drop more weight. And every layer of lifestyle, because it's not just diet. You got to get your body to actually function with the food that you're eating and get it to be absorbed. And so circadian rhythm, light, balance, grounding, those were immensely necessary for women because we have to settle our nervous system and we have to actually get healthy when our nervous system is in a state of parasympathetic activity. So if you're always in a fight and flight response and your cortisol levels are elevated, you're not going to heal and get the weight loss you're looking for. You actually have to kind of calm it all down and just relax the body. And so I do use supplements for that. Last night, I actually took L-theanine before bed, and I'm like, my deep sleep was the highest it's ever been. And I'm like, whoa, that was crazy. A little bit exercise and a little bit of L-theanine does wonders.
I'm making a note of that.
Well, I'm going to try it again tonight. And that was the one thing that's like, okay, I haven't been going to the gym, but this made a big difference to my body to really get my heart rate better. Because when we get our heart rate better, then we have a better HRV and we could be in a better healing state. And when we're sleeping, we're losing weight. That's your growth hormone process. So that all needs to be tuned into.
And finding ways to sleep better
Mm-hmm.
are huge.
Yeah, it's
It's
turning off the inflammation from what I'm noticing when I run. I run diagnostic labs with my clients and
Mhm.
they all have sleep problems. And as soon as I dial in the diet for them and they dial it in and we work together on that concept and actually find what's going on in their body, find those hidden healing opportunities. And I call those the weight loss blocks as well. All of a sudden, the inflammation starts to go away and that sleep gets better. And there's less waking up at night to pee because that's not normal. If you have to wake up at night to pee, there's a problem and it's usually inflammation.
Yeah, I have I've made a lot of adjustments to my own diet over the last couple of years. And where I used to wake up a lot at
Mhm.
night, I don't wake up anymore. I
Okay, so
fall
you've seen
asleep,
the
I
benefit of
stay
that.
asleep,
Yeah.
and I do know it is it's definitely a process that you can implement. It doesn't all of these things that you talk about, they're driven by diagnostic tests. You're not just guessing. You're
Right,
looking at
exactly.
what's going on in somebody's body and saying, "Hey, these are the markers that you need to be paying attention to, and these are the ways that we can address these issues so that you can be in balance and your body can function the way it's designed to."
Yeah. And we have to lower the insulin response in the body. Insulin is a necessary hormone that
Mhm.
keeps diabetic ones, they have to actually put it in their body to live. We have to have insulin, but you need to have it lower. So if you have insulin levels that are too high because carbohydrates too high, sugar load on the body is too high, then you're going to have a fatty liver. That's part of the problem. Then your body's blocked. Now you have a blockage. And then you also have a pancreas that's not functioning, so a pancreatic insufficiency. I'm seeing that on the labs all the time as deficient. And one of the things that I'm noticing or hearing about is that's fatty pancreas too. And so if it goes too far down, like the medical system, they say that that cannot be corrected when you have you have pancreatic insufficiency. Well, they're not actually addressing your blood sugar. When you correct your blood sugar and correct your diet with nutrition, I'm noticing on retest that that does get better. And so that, you can't actually get healthier at the medical system because they're only going to track your progress of your disease and then continue to give you medications. It is not a health system that has to take, you have to do that at home.
I have a real problem with just giving people permission in the form of a pill to continue doing things that are destroying their lives.
Right, right. And it's a sad situation because it doesn't get any better. And
Mhm.
until you actually look at the nutrition and lower your blood sugar response. And you can get a CGM and check it and see which foods are actually causing that. But it's so much easier to just do a low carb diet. Atkins diet's out there because it worked. Now it's the keto diet, low carb diet. You don't have to be super extreme. You just need to take out the ultra processed foods to get started. Sometimes it's easier. Just get under 100 carbs. Just go to Carb Manager, track your carbs, see what's happening, and get them under 100. Go down to whole foods. If you need the sweet, keep in the fruit. The fruit is still sugar. It's fructose. You will store that as fat in your liver. So a lot of the times in the beginning, most people are pre-diabetic. Almost everybody is insulin resistant. Over 90% of people are insulin resistant. And so your liver may not be functioning. And so you could have a fatty liver. And that's why with insulin resistance and pre-diabetes, you have to take out the sugars, the carbs, and get that lower so your body can heal and burn all the fat in the body. And when you do that, and then over time, when you've gotten to your to a point where you're stabilized and your metabolism's reset, and that usually happens in the first 20 to 25 pounds. And that's almost always across the board is what my clients will lose is 20 to 25 pounds, unless you're just a slender woman just looking for, for preventative work and you're not going to lose that much. You might lose 5 to 10 pounds, but you reset your metabolism. It's so cool to watch this process. And then you kind of look at your where you are in your life, create the carb code that you want to live with, but you're already beating that diabetes naturally because you took the sugars out. It's so critical to not have disease in our body because 9 out of the 10 diseases in our lifestyle are because of lifestyle dysfunction, because of what we're doing to our body, all the toxins, how we're living, alcohol that we're drinking, and the sugar load in the body is the carbohydrates all break down to sugar. So you have to monitor that with a CGM or just put it in Carb Manager. And if you're losing weight, then you're doing okay.
And all these drinks that people drink,
Yeah, they're the
their
worst.
soda pop is
Yeah,
like
that's killing
it's
everybody.
it's
Yeah.
killing people. It
It is.
really
Well,
is
if you
killing
look
people.
into the South, that's the biggest problem in the South. They've got the sweet tea, they've got the soda, they're losing their teeth, they've got a huge obesity epidemic. And there's a couple of doctors working over there. Dr. Westman, I think, is one of them over in that area. Dr. Mark Cusicello. I can't really say his name well, but he's out that way. Huge, huge obesity epidemic because of soda pop.
It's worse than beer. I see people give it to their kids,
Well,
and I'm
because
just like,
soda they think is they just drink it all the time. And no
eh,
beer, you might just drink it at night, rather than all day long. Whereas soda, I mean, I saw
even
somebody
if you were
walking
going to
down the
drink it,
street with 32 ounces of a soda pop in his
it's just
hand.
like,
It's like that was what he
you have a
had.
heart attack waiting to happen. It bends your epithelial cells. That's what sugar
It's
does.
glycation. Sugar glycates the vessels and makes them scratchy and rigid. Plus that in combination with vegetable oil. So if you're eating fast food all the time, you're getting vegetable seed oils in your diet. And that's all causing oxidation and glycation and inflammation in the cardiovascular system. It has nothing to do with fat from animal fat or from protein. It has to do with sugar and glycation.
I remember, God, it must have been 20 years ago. I was having a discussion online. You know how back in the day I used to argue with people. Now it's just like, Okay, we'll see how that works out for you.
You could
Just
just
like,
be a model of good health sometimes and just educate people and hopefully their window, all of a sudden they get that light bulb. Like my sister, her light bulb has gone off and she's like, "Oh my God, we're feeding our kids poison." And I'm like, "Yeah."
mhm.
She sees
It's
it. Now she sees it.
hard to tell people that, but even things that you think aren't that bad, like I, they have like arsenic in them, and the levels of arsenic in some of the foods is off the charts. It's
Right,
like
right. And that's the thing to think
crazy.
about, if grains and cereal grains are supposed to be good for us, why do people who are eating them getting sick? And people are eating more grains and cereal grains and wheat products and vegetable oils more now than the 1950s. And that's been recommended, but there's a huge obesity epidemic because of it, which has gone up, the same. So, they have charts and calculations that show this arrow going up at the same time the food changed. So it's all about our food system. We need to go back to nature, back to a paleo style diet, or even just back to our great grandmother's era when people ate 3 meals a day and they ate everything at their meal, but it didn't have vegetable seed oil. It was cooked at home and it was healthier.
Even if you cook at home, you have to be really careful about the ingredients that you're using because they're just not the same as they were back in the 60s and 70s when we
Yeah.
were growing up and learning to cook.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I'm working on a starting guide too. I've already started it, and I might work on it in December. But I have a list of ingredients to keep, and either I do or I need to create a list of ingredients to purge. I believe I have one to purge from your kitchen. And my neighbor just did it. She found out that she had some fatty liver and, purged the kitchen and brought in all the stuff so she could bake low carb, so she could reduce her risk for fatty liver and finally lose the weight. So I'm so grateful that that is, I rubbed off on her a little bit because she's like, first thing she could think of was, I got to do what Lori's doing. And so she's on it. So I'm so grateful that, that this information's getting out there, one person at a time. If we could save one person's life at a time. And I look at this not just weight loss. It's my journey's been weight loss. The whole idea was to lose the weight, but overall, it's to save your life and build 10 to 20 more years of active living for longevity because we can. And if we can stay out of a nursing home and stay out of the medical system and use the money to invest in yourself, don't give that money to the medical system. Invest in your own health would be the best thing to do. So never
Amen,
think that you're
sister.
not investing in your health when you spend money on yourself. And so if you wanted to join a program and get healthy, that's an investment in your health for your longevity. So you could even work longer at your job if you need that. So you can get your brain energy back and dial back that fatigue and just be excited to live again. This is
It
more
makes
than just weight
such
loss.
a huge difference.
Mhm.
Cognitive function, you can go along for a while, kind of
Well, it
with
sneaks up
fuzzy.
on you and you're not aware of it. I have got a client that happened to, and she's like, my me disappeared
Mhm.
in her superpower of being able to multitask and do things and work at her job. She's like, something's wrong. And that was and I always ran a metabolic analysis. And that's one of the things that showed higher as her neurological issue rather than endocrine dysfunction. And so definitely you could see it in her symptomology.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And when you get it back, when you're aware that, wow,
Yeah.
there's a night and day difference, it's huge.
Yeah, most people who've had depression and even bipolarism, they're noticing it with schizophrenia. If you follow and track Dr. Georgia Ede, if you want to get her book and then get Chris Palmer's book, those two books are amazing. They are psychiatrists working in the field of metabolic psychiatry, and they are using the keto diet for themselves as well as their patients. And they've noticed that schizophrenia, which has been intractable with medications do not work for these things. Keto diet works for these things and people are losing weight and getting healthy. And you know what? Once they start this, they never go back to the standard American food because they feel so much better and got their life back. And that's how I
Mhm.
feel too, because I did have that depression. I wasn't living.
Yeah. And then you've got all of the external forces that I don't think they're as bad as they used to be, but I know in the 70s and 80s there was always the big push that you had to be little boys and women's body is the only thing that comes to my mind when I was thinking about, the Twiggies of the world. I
Yeah.
mean, that is not healthy. It-
No.
there's a difference between maintaining a healthy weight because of your lifestyle and eating nutritious foods and having your body um, be what it's going to be versus just trying to lose weight for the sake
Right.
of losing weight.
Yeah, and the thing to look
That's
at this too is because a
not
lot of the
healthy.
times just losing weight's not the power to actually get you into action. What's
Mhm.
going on in your body? What's your vision? What's your goals? If you've got prediabetes and you might not even know you've got prediabetes, you have PCOS, that's prediabetes. But anything that's going on in your body, if your body's not working the way you want it to, and you feel like you've got something happening, or you're noticing people around you just dropping dead, you might want to take a look at your diet because this is all preventable and we could live longer. And so we want to actually think about what do we want for our vision? If you're snacking all the time, if you're snacking at night before bed and you can't turn off your appetite and things taste so good and they keep you taste, if you want to eat them more. Like someone was telling me I had just baked some brownies the other day and I put it on Instagram and into Facebook. And she goes, "Oh, that wouldn't last very long in my house." And I said, "Well, these ones don't actually create cravings in your body. It actually satiates you so you feel like you had a nice chocolate snack and you don't feel like overwhelmingly need to eat the whole plate." And that's what my sister's noticed too. The more she gets into a low carb diet and dial in her carb, because she goes, "I'm not hungry. When I eat good food, I don't feel like I have any cravings, but all of a sudden she'll just like, I'm going to try and eat this." Mentally she's like, "Well, I could eat that if I want to." And so she'll eat it and then she can't stop eating. It just turns that sugar switch off and she's just like, wow, what a difference. But she's developing a mindset. She's like, that food doesn't taste good anymore. Why do I even want to eat it? And so now if you use the food bridge concept and start making everything you want to eat low carb, now you've got a solution that's going to help guide you in your lifestyle factors, in your lifestyle changes that are going to give you the health that you're looking for so you can stay out of a nursing home. So you don't have to spend your money at the medical center.
And
Just
this
buy
brings us
food.
back to our pumpkin pie discussion.
Yes.
I love how you did that. So you're using
Allulose.
allulose instead of sugar.
Right. Allulose is a pretty cool thing. At first I was like, nah, I'm not so sure about that, and I was kind of waiting for the information to come out. I've been using erythritol and monk fruit for the most part. And, and I don't eat it like all day long to the point where some people will get gastric upset. But if you're just having a dessert and a snack, you don't notice it too much. You might get a little bit of gas. But with the allulose, there's not as much each person's going to be different. From what I understand, there's not as much gas and bloating with
Mhm.
allulose. But the thing about allulose, everybody wants to think you could just take a pill like Ozempic or a shot and then you would have weight loss. But the thing with allulose that they're noticing, and Dr. Ben Bickman, he's a PhD specialist on insulin resistance, and he's been talking more about allulose. And it actually creates the GLP-1 activation in your body to actually reduce your appetite. So you could eat something like this that's still nutrient dense. It's got pumpkin and coconut milk and eggs in it, just like any other pumpkin pie. I just changed out the sweetener and I make mine dairy free with the coconut milk. And it's not going to set off my cravings because it's going to actually cause you or help you have less cravings and you feel full longer and you don't just overeat. That's the cool thing about this. And that's how a low carb diet works too. When you start getting the right foods for your body and bringing in more fat and protein and using food more strategically and absorbing it, you actually create the GLP-1 activation in your body through diet and protein. And there's no reason to even have Ozempic or a drug because you're actually doing it through diet, which is permanent weight loss. Because you can do this process and live this as a lifestyle and never gain the weight back like I have. I'm not gaining the weight back. And so you can do this all the time. But if you do like Ozempic, the problem is it's a starvation diet. It's a very low calorie diet, and you don't have enough protein. You lose your muscle mass and your bone mass. And then once you stop doing it, because people only do it for a year, maybe 2 years, that they're uncomfortable. They have nausea. They don't feel good in their body. And so they stop. And once you stop, the only access of a low calorie starvation diet is your body's ready to gain weight. You've already lowered your metabolism because you lost your muscle. All the fat comes back, but not the muscle. And so if you were to just transition into a keto or low carb and do that naturally, like one of my clients did, that's just so much easier. You actually get to live life, eat pumpkin pie, make a brownie, some keto cookies, and still enjoy the holidays. I even make a keto carrot cake, and that's in my cookbook too, because yeah, I like to celebrate.
I love all these things. It's not about denying yourself stuff. It's about making better choices
Right.
about the things that you want to consume.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's because I'm old or what, but I've reached a point where there's some things just don't taste good to me anymore. And it's
Right. Well,
why am I
our
doing this?
bacteria change, and when our bacteria change, we actually can lose the urge to have a lot of sugar because there's two types of bacteria, commensal bacteria, they call it Bacteroides, which I call the skinny bacteria, and your Firmicutes, which are your fat bacteria. So the more Firmicutes you have and you're eating more carbohydrates, you're feeding that bacteria. You could have candida and fungus overgrowth, you're feeding that. And so they want a lot of sugar. So if you've got a huge sugar addiction, there could be, pathogenic problems in your body that are craving sugar. But once you stop eating that and eating more whole foods and cutting back on your carbs, then those Firmicutes bacteria die out more, and you're now nourishing your skinny bacteria, and they don't like as much sugar. They want more fatty acids. They need the short chain fatty acids. They want to be fed fat and fiber. And so you can change your health by changing your gut, by changing the food you eat. And that's part of the process. I'm trying to keep it simple, but it's a whole body process, and it starts with food. And the thing with food is you might need to use more of the food bridges initially to get off of ultra processed foods. Use the flavors you like, but just make it low carb. That's the one thing that I would say is going to be the biggest thing that you can do. And then as you change and evolve, I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm more keto carnivore now. On some days, I forget about vegetables, but I eat mostly eggs, beef, protein, fish, sardines, salmon. That's what I eat, on a daily basis. I mean, I only, nibble on my brownies or cookies during the holidays normally. It's not something I do regularly. But they're there for people who need them. It's a bridge.
Yeah, it's a bridge. And you get into patterns where you eat different kinds of foods at
Mhm.
different points in your life. And, you know, everybody has, if you can get to the point where you can listen to your body, and I think that's why a coach like you who actually has some data around what you're telling people to do, and it's tailored to the individual to and gives them a glimpse at what's going on rather than just going to their doctor and saying, hey, can you give me something so I can lose weight? And
Yeah,
the
that's not
doctor
gonna work.
doesn't know you, and
Yeah.
he's not going to do the diagnostic work because they don't really know how to do the diagnostic
Mm.
work, and they don't
Mm-mm.
have the time, or and they're not interested. But
Yeah,
if
and
you
I married together functional diagnostic nutrition with my lived experience and the diagnostic labs. And, we discover what your weight loss blocks are. So you can collapse the time it takes to get healthy within 6 months. It's pretty
yeah,
fast.
it doesn't have to take a really long time.
Yeah.
And it's not just about losing weight. Weight is a symptom.
Of being
It's a
unhealthy.
symptom of being unhealthy. The more weight you're carrying, the more unhealthy you are. And you can get healthy. Diabetes, another case, they used to say you could never cure diabetes. Well, that may be the medical profession's opinion, but I've seen
That's
it
because they
cured.
can't cure it. They don't try to. They don't have the
They don't
ability to
want
do that.
to.
Yeah. No, they're not. Their hands are tied. They're not. That's not their model. Their
Mhm.
model is they've got 6 minutes with you. You've got a problem. They're going to analyze what's going on in your body, from whatever labs they're working on, and then say, oh, you are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. Here's your medication. Okay, have a good life. That mean they can't do anything.
Yeah, but you need to take personal responsibility for your own well-being.
Yeah, don't go to the
And
doctor, they can't help you. Dr. William Davis, he has a podcast out called, Defiant Health. So listen to him, he's a cardiologist, and he has a book out called Undoctored, also has one out on gut health, and he says, "Take care of yourself at home, don't go to the medical system." He's a
yeah,
doctor.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, I
It's
love him, he's just so
it's
cool.
if you're in a car accident or,
Go
you
get fixed up.
go get
I
fixed
would
up
hope I have the
with
hospital to get to, yes.
great emergency.
And everybody, they're beautiful, wonderful, hardworking people, but
Mm,
they cannot take care of chronic health because of blood sugar regulation.
right, because our food supply has been so contaminated and we're told things are food that are not food. Chips are not food.
No. I
They
know I had
have,
somebody come over when the kids were little, and she goes after school, and she was like, "Where's the chips?" I'm like, "We don't do chips after school."
they
We
just
make
have
spaghetti.
toxins and they're just like, yeah,
There's some healthier alternatives out there for people who aren't ready. I wasn't ready to give up chips right out the bat, right out the gate. And so the lifestyle changes can be things that are stepping stones. Like there is the brand called Siete, and you could get their chips that are made of cassava and just have them occasionally and a little at a time just to enjoy the flavors of guacamole or salsa, but not as a main dish. And then the other things are like bread. I needed to have bread, but I made my own. And so that was when I went low carb keto. I'm a baker. My grandmother was a baker. So I just started making everything myself of what I wanted to eat. And there's a couple of companies out there called Unbun and Base Culture. Now those are the only two that I would recommend that don't have any wheat in them, that are relatively good quality bread that won't ruin your lifestyle choices. But anytime you get those cheap breads that say keto at the store that have wheat gluten, you're still damaging your gut. Just don't eat those. And sourdough, it's not going to work either. Dr. William Davis says, I'm sorry, but sourdough is still wheat. You will have leaky gut. And there's so many doctors out there are saying that as long as you're eating wheat in your diet, you will have an autoimmune disease, period. It's just going to happen.
interesting. Even if you're making your own bread, I do
Correct.
make my own bread.
Correct.
I,
It's still wheat. Yeah. We're not
yeah,
designed to digest the wheat protein.
interesting.
Yeah. You need to listen to Dr. William Davis, get his gut book. I actually put that in
Writing all
my
these names down.
I've got some tips and hacks and pages of recommendations in my recipe book, and that was one of them, was to get his book and get his yogurt maker and listen to his podcast, because his mother died of a heart disease and she was doing everything right. And he's like, well, she did everything right. What's going on? Now, what do I do with myself? And how do I help my clients or his patients? And he says, this is all wrong. It's all wrong. And so when you get a cardiologist, flip it 360 degrees, you know something's wrong and that you might want to follow the cardiologists who are making these lifestyle changes. There's a lot out there, actually.
Yeah, it's dairy is another thing that I live in dairy country and we can get actual raw.
That's nice if you can get it raw.
it- you should only have it raw.
Yes. It's
If you're
dead
going to
milk
get
coming.
something pasteurized,
Right.
you're it's been taken apart and put back together. You're not getting
Mhm.
any of the nutrition and
Exactly.
it's causing you to have lactose intolerance because you're not getting the enzymes
Hmm.
that are in raw milk that help you to digest it.
Right.
And we were never designed to actually drink cow's milk. If you're going to
No.
drink milk, goat's milk is better for you. It's smaller fat molecules or
Yes, definitely.
globules that you can
And
actually
that's one
digest.
of the things I do with every new client is I run a food sensitivity test too, to see what your body's reacting to,
Mhm.
and then remove those foods until for 3 to 6 months, let your body heal. That is a huge inflammatory correction that you can make to jumpstart weight loss. And it's one of my foundation of first steps. And, right now I'm actually having a $300 off of that program. It's a 6-week jumpstart program. And that's one of my Black Friday specials. I'm super excited to be able to offer that because, oh my gosh, it's just, I could not heal my body until I took out the foods I was reacting to all my food sensitivities. And even losing the first 20 pounds, I could not lose any more weight till I completely took out the foods I was reacting to. So it's huge. People poo poo it thinking, why do I need a food sensitivity test? Well, you could see what you're reacting to this very day and correct it so that you can lose your pain in 9 days. Like one of my clients, 9 days into the program, not, her foot pain was gone. And then another client just this past summer, after working with me 6 months, 95% less pain, lost an inch and a half in her foot size, inflammation and swelling gone, and 26 pounds of weight loss. That was just her reset in 6 months. So many
Yeah,
things we can do with the right food dialed in for our body and not eating our food sensitivities. It's so powerful.
and it's not about like giving everything up all at once. Like I've been on this journey for a long time and I've given up different things along the way. I quit drinking alcohol a year and a half ago. I haven't
That's
had
what
a soda
sparkling water
and
is for. I love my sparkling water. It makes me happy. Yeah.
even that it's not an all the time thing because if it's got carbonation in it, it's going to destroy your bones. But I mean, I love water. We we spend a lot to filter our water.
There you go.
And I've quit drinking coffee on a regular basis. I drink tea and I have Earl Grey tea and I mix it with coconut milk because
Oh, the coconut milk's a good one. See, now if
I
I
really
hadn't
like
known my
the
food
flavor.
sensitivities, I wouldn't have known that I read sensitive to the black tea, and I'm okay with coffee. And so that would, if someone would say, people caution us about coffee, for me, I didn't need to give up coffee
Mhm,
because it's not a food sensitivity, but black tea was. And so I
mhm.
actually do it the reverse way. I don't do black tea because that didn't make me, wasn't good for my body.
I don't do black tea, black tea. I can do Earl Grey tea.
Well, Earl Grey
And
tea is coming from black tea.
I realize that, but
Oh,
it's the
yes.
only kind of black tea that I drink. I don't
Okay.
drink the really hard black tea, and the other teas that I drink are all herbal,
Yeah.
like Rubios or chamomile, and I have different teas for different times
Yeah.
of the day. But
I do
uh,
love my teas during winter more so when it's
mm,
hot out or cold. Cold, I always drink more tea.
yeah, it feels good. And
Mhm.
I was I was drinking a lot of cream with my coffee,
Oh, yeah.
which um
Inflammatory.
I was like, I'm not really enjoying this, and I think that I do have an allergy to milk products, even raw milk products, because my nose generally runs a lot,
That's
and
one of
when
the
I
symptoms, congestion from dairy. Right.
yeah, so just cutting way back on it and adding more coconut milk into my diet, it helps with brain clarity because it's got
Nice.
the right kinds of fatty acids to
Yeah, that's the other
work.
side of it. When you look at the nutrition of food and you actually get more MCT oil, coconut oil,
Yes.
you're getting the good fat to the brain to actually reduce your risk for Alzheimer's and dementia. And
Mhm.
that's really important. And when we cut our sugars back, our body is able to use those ketones more regularly to help create higher mitochondria health. And there's
Mhm.
less risk for diabetes and Alzheimer's. So it's just a super win-win when we look at our diet for
Mhm.
those purposes. Like, what do you want to not have?
Wheat's probably going to be the next thing that has to
Yeah.
go, but
There's so many
it's
things you could do though. And like in my recipe book, I just was doing a recommendation, like, because it's not my recipe, but there's
mhm.
a little sipper. She goes, her name is Bethany Ugart, and she's got a book out called Digest This.
Mhm.
And super easy recipe book. Some of my favorite recipes are in that book. And one of them is just like 8 ounces of tahini with 4 eggs. You get a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and a teaspoon of baking soda. You whip all that up together
Mhm.
and you just put it in a little bread pan and it pops up and you just slice it and you've got bread.
Mm.
As long as
Bread
you're
is really just a vehicle for delivering other stuff on it
like almond butter,
anyway.
that's what I like it for. So, I always like to have a little bit of almond butter on a piece of bread and it feels comfortable with a cup of coffee. I don't do it all the time. I actually have to make myself not do it because I'll overeat it. But that
Mhm.
is available. And so basically it's the habit and the desire to do that. Once you take wheat out of your diet, then you no longer have the addiction to it because it is a food that gives us that dopamine hit and it goes through the same pathways as cocaine does and dairy does
Mhm.
the same thing. So to give you, it's like morphine hit. And so those casein and gluteomorphines are going to drive the reason why we want to eat those foods and why we don't want to give them up. And so when we find those food bridges and create substitutes for what we want to eat, but we're able to then do away without the addictive foods that cause us to have inflammation, then we're able to get to the next level of healing in our body so that we can prevent the disease from coming up and lower our blood sugar response. It's so powerful what we could do with food and not being so restrictive. You don't have to be, full on keto carnivore at the beginning unless you have an autoimmune disease and you need to. Those are just choices.
Yeah, and and just I was really restrictive keto for a while, and then I veered off of it because I hadn't really come up with a sustainable way of living like that.
Mhm.
And I had kids at home, which always makes life exponentially more difficult when it comes to
Stress
diet.
multiplies.
Yes. So I might look at going back into that.
And don't look at it as restrictive. So here's what I want to say for everybody too, is what you want to do specifically right now is if you want
Mhm.
to bake and have something for the holiday, just use allulose or the erythritol and monk fruit. Change the sugar, use almond flour for the wheat, create something that you're going to have. Pick up my book because that'll help guide you and give you that inspiration and motivation. It has a keto recipe, it has carrot cake, it has the pumpkin pie, brownies, fudge. Those things, they're in there because those are things that I needed when I first crossed over to low carb, but I never completely went without those until more recently, where I just eating more meat and protein because that's where I'm at with myself. I need to build more muscle. I need, as a woman 61, to maintain my weight loss. I need to improve my basal metabolic rate and create more muscle to lose that last 10 pounds. And, right now, that's where my health is that I need for myself. And so I eat more protein, but I still keep those foods in my diet. And I've never felt restrictive. I just like, how can I make this the way I want to have it so I could eat something I want to eat? Even a keto lasagna is awesome, possible. They even do it carnivore, but you can make a lasagna.
Okay.
It's pretty
With
cool.
cheese though, right?
You do yeah, you do still do cheese, and so if you're dairy sensitive, I use manchego more so than mozzarella specifically because I can control the quality of my cheese. But basically, if you're dairy sensitive, you're gonna take a hit on cheese when you make a lasagna. So when you're doing more desserts and you're doing a lot more dairy, then you're gonna probably notice more inflammation. But when you're living your standard diet, you wanna keep cheese to a minimum. In the beginning, keep it in. Get yourself off of the processed food. Dairy has its purpose. It gives you that morphine hit. I mean, people have a hard time saying no to dairy for that reason. And so if you need it, keep it in, make everything else low carb, find out what your food sensitivities are, start reducing your dairy and bringing in coconut milk. It's going to make a huge difference in your inflammatory load and support your brain health. There's always going to be a solution. That's why when you hang out with me, I'm going to guide you exactly into that process. And with all my lived experience, I've got the certainty, the conviction. I know how you guys can do it. I know everybody can do it. I did it. I lost 100 pounds. There is no reason why anybody can't do this. I'm not special. I just hurt and I had my pain and I didn't want to live like that. And so I made the change. I got the information I needed. I followed somebody who'd been there and done that, who was empowered on his own journey.
And you have a book called, or not a book, a workbook called Eight Essential Hacks to Losing Stubborn Body Fat as a Woman Over 50. So you want to talk about that for a little
Yeah,
bit?
so that one is actually, I keep thinking about, I've updated the name on it more so because it's for stubborn fat overall, not just belly fat.
Mhm.
And it's really cool because it's got the 8 steps of things that you want to do to get started. It's going to help you with digestion. It's going to help you with hydration. It's going to give you some workbook where you can write down your visions and your goals. But it's really going to show you what I specifically did in the beginning that really helped me jumpstart my weight loss. And I have every single one of my clients start this. So that is a good place to start. And then there is also the Belly Fat Hacks mini course, which comes with the workshop and the workbook and the cheat sheet of all the steps you can do. So you don't have to do them all in one day. Put it on your refrigerator, print it out, put it on your refrigerator, and start looking at all the things that you can do to fine tune your body so you can thrive and create the Ferrari you really are or the Mercedes and stop living in that Pinto and start, making yourself a Tesla. Just got to recreate your body. And that's what it is. You get to reclaim your health to thrive, not just survive. We
I
can
love that so
survive,
much.
but you're never going to thrive. And people are dying. I've had friends die before 60. And my brother is 60. He's a couple years older than me. I'm going to be 62 this year. He reversed his diabetes, and his friends are dropping like flies. If you don't do something, and correct your health.
Start early.
Don't know what's around for you. So that's, I've been studying the studies. You can get 10 to 20 more quality years of living with an anti-inflammatory diet, what takes the sugar and the weight out of your diet, because that's what they're seeing. That's when if you want to get to your 90s and 100s, upright, walking, dancing at weddings, you can, but you have to take the sugar load down.
Or you
You
will
know what?
lose your mind,
Yeah,
literally.
I just
It's
had a pint of berries this past weekend. I do it so infrequently, but I'm like, oh, every now and then blackberries, I'm gonna have some. But I'm metabolically flexible and I can do that and not react with my blood sugar. If I wanted to have a wine at a celebration, I could. But the only thing is if it's not organic, I'm not gonna drink it. So I into, quality health and living and the lifestyle, which is important. Like if you're putting toxins into your body, you're gonna create body fat. You're gonna, your toxins go to your brain. A lot of people get more brain dysfunction too because the toxins go there. Your metals go to your brain. If you're creating more mercury in your body, you're going to get it in your brain. We want to just get it out. Stop putting it in there.
foods that you can eat that actually help with that too. Little things like cilantro.
Cilantros are really good. Getting some spirulina and chlorella on a regular basis. They
Mhm.
sell that stuff all the time. And basically, what's missing in most people, and I run a hair tissue mineral analysis to find out what their minerals, your major minerals, are looking like, and what they're doing. And one of the things that's usually missing is selenium. And so we need selenium in our diet. Most people are not getting it. Part of the reason there is a Hashimoto's and a hypothyroid issue is people are not getting their nutrients, are not absorbing their food, and selenium is deficient. So if if you're always out doing raw sushi, you need to make sure you're taking that selenium to balance that mercury that you're getting into your body.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't eat much fish for that very reason.
Well, all of my fish is cooked. I focus mostly on salmon because I don't feel full eating whitefish. And so when I want to have shrimp, I always combine it with salmon or with eggs so that I can enjoy the shrimp, but I'm still feeling satiated because whitefish is not satiating. There's not enough protein in it overall to
Mhm.
satiate the body, and it's low fat. We want protein and fat to satiate the body, and if you do that, you'll win. So if you eat before you go somewhere to a party and then make your own dessert, low carb, then you win because you eat what you bring when you go to a party. You don't have to feel left out.
Yeah. Enjoy the celebration.
Yes, exactly.
So, Lori, this has been an amazing conversation. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I am at loribalue.com and you could download my book. You can get my new book there as well. And I'm
Mhm.
also on Instagram just about daily. You could see my pictures of the pumpkin pie I just had. Lori Balue Weight Loss at Instagram. I'm the only Lori Balue out there. I'm on Facebook as well. And I'm on my YouTube station for a holistic low carb weight loss for women over 50. So check me out there. And I'm always going to be out there educating you, and I'm ready for you to make your lifestyle changes. If you need the education, I'm here to help you implement that.
Awesome. So, what's the one thing you hope the audience takes away from our conversation today? We've covered
Yeah,
so
you know
much.
what? Just make everything low carb. Follow that food bridge. If you want to have a pizza, make a pizza. You can make so many different crusts. I have a recipe for that too. Just make it out of chicken or ground beef. There's so many things we can do. We just want the flavor. But the problem is if you're going to keep the wheat in your diet, it's going to sabotage you. What wheat does is it causes your ghrelin hormone, your hunger hormone, to be elevated. So the more we eat wheat, the more hunger you're going to have. And so the best way to turn off that hunger is to stop eating the wheat and go gluten free and make everything low carb. That's the best thing you could do for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me
You're
today.
welcome.
Thank you for joining us for the U World Order Showcase podcast. Remember, if you would like to be featured on this podcast as a life, health, or transformational coach, please visit www.jointheuworldorder.com. We look forward to talking to you next time as we present another life, health, or transformational coach being the change they seek in the